What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mina channel, and today I have an interesting video for you here regarding Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. So I reviewed this last week and I just kind of wanted to go over it and some of the stuff that I found interesting, or just a discussion video really per se. I really like philosophy a whole lot, and while I was in college I did take a couple of philosophy classes here, and I wanted to play some of my knowledge plus just pretty much what I like and infer on the game itself regarding just Buddhism, death, rebirth, karma, you know, those kind of stuff that they are presented within the game, just kind of tied all together. So needless to say, I'm not an expert, but I just want to talk about my 2 cents, just kind of what I think happens and everything else. Needless to say, because of this, there will be spoilers regarding the different endings. I'm not going to discuss the entirety of the game, but you might as well have finished the game at least once so you know what's going on and everything. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with this video. And yeah, for everything, so just to get started with this background in the game itself, the game is obviously based on the Sengoku period, so which is commonly known as a period of warring, which there are different factions trying to fight for power and control throughout Japan. This period passed through hundreds of years really, so a lot of people known this for that. However, there's another thing that was happening during that same period of time in Japan, and that was the different factions in religion which were kind of fighting for power as well. During that period of time, Buddhism actually lost control after having control throughout so many different periods of time, but at the same time give an opportunity for Buddhism to merge with other religions within Japan. And I think that's one of the interesting things, because the Buddhism that we see here in Japan is different from the ones that we have seen in other countries like Korea, Japan, China, India. All the different countries have Buddhism as a religion, but it's different from country to country because some things get adapted to different stuff. In Japan, for example, Buddhism got merged with Shinto, which is another religion in Japan, more believing in different gods and that kind of stuff. So a lot of the themes that we see in Sekiro are both Buddhist and Shinto, different style, different stuff to say about it and everything. So just different kind of Buddhism, I think it's just needless to say. So one of the main mechanics within the game itself is the ability to revive. Once you die the first time in Sekiro, Kuro, your lord, revives you and allows you to continue fighting for him, which is really the biggest mechanic of the game. And throughout the story, not only is this a mechanic, but it's also a main story, or the main point really driving forward the story. Immortality, rebirth, death. This is the theme that really brings anything. And I thought it was really interesting that From Software, who has used rebirth and immortality as kind of a theme, use it in Japan because it's very different. And looking at this through the lens of philosophy in Buddhist ideologies, it makes it really interesting itself, just the sake of how it is. So there are 2 different views of immortality in the game, or a couple of different ones. So you have the view of Kuro, who is the one that possesses the ability to give immortality, who looks at it as a curse, looks at it as something that is shouldn't be in our world. At the same time, you have the other faction, which is the main faction that keeps capturing Kuro for the sake of immortality. Genishiro, the monks, all these different aspects that really make the antagonist within the world. At the same time, these 2 different views, I believe them to be not only is it ironic, but it also creates a paradox between the 2 of them. For example, in one hand we have Kuro, who not only sees it as a curse, but also sees it as something that affects everything around us, and Genishiro on the monks, who sees it as something that is needed to seek for power. So it's very different stuff here. And we do see another faction that is also looking for immortality, or trying to get the immortality out of people, that's the divine realm. When we go into the divine realm, we meet in these nobles that is actually able to suck your mortality, your life out of you, to keep themselves alive and strong. So I thought that was something interesting and different from both the monks and the divine waters of immortality, or I'm sorry, what is that? Rejuvenation, which is kind of a different faction, I say, from the divine realm. So throughout the entire game, like I said, you meet all these different characters, but I believe that the achievements of mortality to immortality within the concept of Buddhism, which I'm gonna tie back on there, it really depends on what you're looking to see. The concept of rebirth and karma itself are tied to each other. For example, Buddhist in raw Buddhism, it is the belief that life itself is an entire circle. It's a circle that of suffering. So that through the entire circle, we live and die, and through our actions, we accumulate karma points, or ties to karma, to different people, to different actions, and everything. And these actions, in and of itself, decide how you live throughout your next life, and so on. But in and of itself, this is a circle of rebirth and death, and we die and we live, and all these actions just accumulate throughout the years. The concept of nirvana, which is not a concept that we actually hear in the game, it comes from Buddhism, and is mainly the goal for achieving nirvana, achieving transcendence. But unlike other religions, nirvana is actually not heaven or hell or anything like that. It's actually complete nothing. It's peace. It's being able to break from the karmatic ties that have tied you in the mortal world, and being able to end suffering and everything else. Not just bad stuff, but also good stuff. Just pretty much nothingness. Achieving nothingness is truly the way to reach nirvana. In a sense, it's very ironic, because this game in and of itself is the goal of so many different people is to achieve immortality, which is completely different from nirvana of itself. It's trying to achieve immortality through mortality, which is very different concept here. For example, the monks see it as kind of a way for them to be able to achieve more power. So it's Ganesha with the waters of rejuvenation. So I think that you see what I'm saying here. Those the different characters have just the different motivations for the same cause and root, and I think it's just really interesting the way that they worked it out here. So throughout the game, we meet different characters, like I mentioned earlier, but the very first character that we meet, which is kind of like the way that they kicked off the story, is I also think one of the biggest clues to the game itself that they give you. So the first person that you meet after you lose your arm is the sculptor. The sculptor is somebody that it helps you and teaches you the different ways to become a shinobi, and kind of progresses you forward. For different conversations that we have with the sculptor, you learn more about him and how he has enveloped himself in hatred, and he's trying to do these sculptures as a way for him to be able to achieve some kind of peace within himself. Later on down the road, we actually see that this character, the sculpture, is actually somebody that becomes a demon of hatred, becoming pure evil, pure hatred, which is in a way to not only you suffer with people suffering around it, and then that's what they call Asura or Shura in the game. So this is in of itself tied from karma. So regarding your actions is the way that you really get rewarded towards the end of your life, and towards a specific point. So I think that this is very interesting that the first person that we see is actually somebody that is so tied into karma that it's a good way for you to not only learn about the story, but it's a good result for that storyline. But I don't believe that the storyline itself finishes there. For the sculpture, as you can see in what I'm going to talk about in a second. So in a sense, Asura, which is a submission that I just talked about, Ashura, is the opposite of Nirvana. So instead of achieving peace through just being able to cut off everything. Sura, on the other hand, is enveloping all these negative emotions through whether it's anger or bloodlust or any of these emotions that just charge up and becoming the opposite of that. It's just becoming through hatred. In one of the endings, we are actually able to achieve Shura by betraying your master, and at that point really crossing the line into what is bad. So he himself, Sekiro, then kills Owl, his master, and then he goes and kills pretty much everybody else, and at that point he really crosses that and becomes a demon of hatred, or the demon of hatred. So I think at this point it really, when it hit me that all the endings are actually the same game, tied in different aspects. As I mentioned before, the way that Buddhism thinks of life is as a circle of suffering, and I believe that this is what the developers made for this game. So the game with different endings are not different endings, they're just endings that you go through in our circle of life. So first you get the ending, the bad ending, where you actually become Shura, and then this ending ties into something else, which is the alternative ending, where you actually become a sculpture, and this sculpture gives up his hand and just trying to become good again. And I think that in these two endings here you can see that they are tied together, which is the same on the other endings. So what I'm trying to say here is I believe that all these endings are different outcomes that you get from different lifespans that you get as you die and as you restart one more time in the same circle until you achieve that goal, which is Nirvana, or in a sense this continuing of the story on Sekiro 2, or whatever they decide to do. But you're the main character, and the sculpture are not the only people that you meet, which in this sense of looking for immortality, pretty much everybody that you meet in this game, in a sense, or all the people that you read throughout the different books are trying to achieve this immortality, whether they see it as a curse, whether they see it as something good. That is really entirely up to interpretation. For example, you see a Undying that you meet at the very beginning of the game, who is somebody that wants to train you to become better, and this Undying just says that he doesn't see any point in life anymore. He's going to help you to, maybe you can help him when the chance goes. And as fate goes, you do get the chance once you get the mortal blade, and you can kill him one final time, and he thanks you for it. And that's when you really end his suffering there, maybe helping, cutting off those ties of immortality, which is a theme that you actually see in all of these bosses. Once you fight a boss who has achieved immortality, or a type of immortality, you get a different sign that says immortality caught. You have caught the path of immortality. And I think that's very interesting how they were able to fight it, because all of these people that have achieved some kind of immortality have been corrupt in some kind of way, whether it's Genishiro at the very beginning at the waters of rejuvenation, again, whether it's all the monks in the Senpu temple. As you walk through the Senpu temple, you actually find these monks that are enveloped with these centipedes that are just around it and everything. Obviously you can see that they have corrupt in some ways. You can see that they've been doing these experiments to all the different people, kidnapping them. You see the story of Robert, who's the little kid who comes from far away. Robert and his father came to Japan because they heard of the waters of rejuvenation. They're trying to find a cure for whatever he is going through, and all these things, just all these stories that you can tie into different stuff, really bring a point of there is a price and a consequence to the sense of immortality or rejuvenation within the game itself. At the same time, you have kind of the choice to cut it off. And seeing all this bad stuff happening, whether it's you from the Dragon Rod or pretty much everything else, the game is really trying to drive you forward toward a goal, which is to help Kuro break that immortality. And I believe, like I mentioned earlier, that through going through all these different endings, you get the true ending, in which you get a different kind of a way for you to be able to help Kuro and help yourself and help everybody around you. And I think all of these endings, like I mentioned earlier, really do tie up pretty nicely. I really like how they were able to portray all this. And yeah, I think it was overall something that was interesting to discuss about. Now, I missed certain points here and there because I have a really long script that I went through. And I know I skipped gloss over certain stuff and everything. So if I miss any spots, please let me know in the comments below. Do you guys like this kind of videos where I just talk about my thoughts and discussion on a game like Sekiro? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I do videos like this every now and then. I did one in Spider-Man a little bit ago and everything. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this. If you're new, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.